We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Adham Barbour coming to you with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the new Ghostbusters Plasma Series Ray Stantz. For the package, as you can see, it sort of looks like the jumpsuit with like the zipper right there and then the kind of cloth-looking background. You got an open window that fully showcases the figure as well as all of his accessories. You got the Ghostbusters text with the No Ghost logo right down here. Side here has a really cool artistic image of the 4 Ghostbusters. Opposite side here has just some diagrams, and then you come around to the back of the package, and it says, "The heart of the team, Ray's ready and more than willing to bust some ghosts." Then you have it in a whole bunch of other languages. And then you can see all the other figures that when you collect them, you'll get all the different Build-A-Figure pieces to create Vince Clortho as he appears when he becomes a terror dog. But for the packaging on Ray, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. And here we have Ray Stantz open up and out of his packaging. And first and foremost, like I said before, he does come with his Build-A-Figure piece, this being the right back leg, I believe, of Vince Clortho. This one is not as articulated as the front leg. Taking a look at that, you can see that it's got like this extra knee-ish joint right here, which this one doesn't have. Well, it kind of does. It's a little bit lower, not up here, which is weird, but it works pretty decently. Again, we'll put all this together in a future video. But here we have Ray. Now, again, very much like that Peter figure, the likeness is fantastic on him. I just feel like the skin tone is a little bit off. It probably looks like it's more washed out here with my brighter lights, but I do wish there was a little bit more of a wash of sorts on the actual face, giving it a better look. In some angles it looks better than others. Like that looks pretty good from the side. From the front looks a little bit off, but the side is a really good look for him. I feel like his lips are what kind of throw it off, but the shape of the head, the way that the hair is, all is really nicely captured here. And again, in my opinion, the best looking, I'm dropping stuff, the best looking representation of Dan Aykroyd as Ray Stantz. I think it looks terrific. The rest of the suit, very much like that Peter one. The only thing that's different is he actually does have a little bit chubbier of a body. Now, removing this, taking this whole proton pack off, again, you want to pull that up, slide that up just like so. I love the fact that you can remove that, but the body is different. You can see that he's got a little bit more of a belly on him, which Peter did not have. I don't know necessarily if that's the only thing that's different. I mean, the rest is pretty much the same, I would imagine, but really very nice nonetheless. I love the fact that he does have a little bit of a belly on him. That was something that previous figures really didn't have, and I like that they actually got that in there. Now, when you take a look at his belt, this is where I was talking about with Peter's. Ray actually has a little clip right here. You can take his ecto goggles and you can put them on there. It's a little bit difficult to get them to stay on. You kind of have to push them down there, but they stay pretty decently if you're just going to have them hang there. I do wish that all of them had it so that you could have him hook like the trap or something to it. That's one thing that would have been fairly nice, but the rest of the figure does look good. Again, I feel like the actual jumpsuit is a little bit too light of a color. It's not bad, but I feel like it could be a little bit darker of a color. You can see all the different hoses and everything. You got a yellow one here, whereas like the Matty Collector ones were a clearish yellow. You'll see that when I do the comparison. You have his walkie-talkie right there. Unlike Peter's, the pants for all the other Ghostbusters are actually tucked underneath the boot, so they sculpted it to look like that as well. Really nice touch there. Again, I love the fact that they have the paint detail on the middle joint here. That's really nice. They're all wearing their gloves. Sometimes they wore gloves, sometimes they didn't. I think that it was a good choice to go with the more gloved look. One thing though is I feel like he's always kind of like hunching forward. I don't know. His belly makes him want to kind of stand back a little bit. So there's him. The other accessory. So he does come with his ecto goggles. Now, let me bring in, I have another, I'm going to do the full comparison here in a bit. But these are the ecto goggles that came with the Matty Collector figure. This is insane, the difference. Oh, these are upside down. First of all, the size is tremendously different, and you can see just like the sculpt is really off. I do like the fact that the straps on the Matty Collector one are black. Looks a little bit better than the green ones, but I get why they did it this way. It's probably easier to just kind of mold it all in this plastic and then put a little bit of silver on the harder pieces, which is right here. Not so much on this, but I could probably take a marker and darken that if I wanted to. But huge difference here, and you'll see that specifically in terms of fitting on the head. This actually fits a lot better. So putting this over and then kind of wiggling it down, because it is a little bit tight, it sits there on the top of his head pretty good, as you can see. Getting it over his hair is a little bit more tricky, which that's, I don't want to say problematic, but you kind of have to pull it to get it to go over the hair. And then when you get it on there, that looks really good. It sits on his nose nicely. It takes up the whole head pretty much like it's supposed to, unlike these, that when it was on that, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that it came with this. I'll show that here in a bit, but yeah, it's bad. We'll take a look at that closer later on, but that, well, no, let's do that right now. I mean, that, what? That looks stupid. Let's just be totally honest. That looks dumb. The head sculpt is just way too narrow, first of all, but the goggles just look a million times better and don't look weird because of his hair right there. I mean, that's derpy, but really, really very nice. Now, personally, I like leaving these up in the upward kind of position on them like this, and then kind of folding that down, getting that around his ears. I think that looks a little bit more Ray-ish. I dig it. So sending him there and then taking a look at the proton pack. Again, same proton pack, but unlike Peter's, which had the red light in the upper right, you can see that the lower left is now, well, if it'll focus on it, sorry about that, guys. So upper right was lit up, now the lower left is lit up. Now for the comparison to the removable Matty Collector one, you can see, again, big size difference between the two. This is far more accurate in terms of the overall size. I do like some of the elements on the Matty one a little bit more, specifically like with the little hose on the neutrino wand. I do like how they have the full harness section right here on the new one, as opposed to the old, which is just little straps that go around their arms. And one thing that I went back and rewatched the Ghostbuster movie. I've seen it a million times, so any reason that I can get to go back and rewatch it is a good one. The neutrino wand is definitely a little bit oversized on this. It should be a smaller bit, but it's still really nice nonetheless. Fits in the hands really well. Now, the issue that I have with this, unlike Peter, because Ray here's got a belly, this actually has a little bit harder of a time closing like it's supposed to. So you're going to take this, you can do it. So put this on here, just kind of slide that down, get that out of the way. Come on. There we go. Come on, Paul, what am I doing? So push that down, then make sure that you get that peg pushed in as far as you can, but he's got a belly here, which makes it difficult to get it all the way over. So it's a little bit easier to put it under his belly, which is more movie accurate. If you go back and watch the original scene where they're wearing these kind of for the first time, Ray had his kind of tucked underneath his belly like that, but you can see that it does put a little bit of extra pressure on it, making the connection here not as secure. So be careful with that. It still holds on there fairly decently because of that little peg. So, but you can see it worked its way out, and that does kind of suck. I'm not a big fan of that. It does stay on there, mind you, but over time, it seems to just slowly kind of pull away from it if you kind of move it around at all. So just be aware when you're going to be getting this guy that his belly kind of gets in the way, as you know, a lot of bellies kind of do. Now let's do some comparisons. I brought in several figures for what is going on here with this knee down here. I feel like this one is not fully. Oh, what's happening? Oh, there we go. Wow, that was really stiff. So get that. There we go. All right. That was not fully compressed. So I brought in a lot of different Peter figures. So I want to bring in the same kind of figures here. So up first, we have the marshmallow covered Ray. You can see you got the marshmallow goop all over him. And like I was talking about, the clear hose here is what really does kind of make this almost look better. The clearer hose looks a little bit better, I think, than the yellow one. So here is Marshmallow Mess Ray. Here is the very first Ray. You can see he's got the gloves on here. I kind of wish that they had gloves with this. But this backpack is non-removable. It's the first one that we got with Matty Collector, and that kind of aggravated us because we wanted one that you can remove the backpack. And here that is. You can see he's got the gloved hands here, whereas the original one did not have the gloved hands. So setting him right there again, you can see the theme going with the hose as well. So you got the clearish kind of color with that. And because I use the courtroom battle scene Peter Venkman, I'm going to bring in my courtroom battle scene Ray to complete the ensemble, if I can get him to stand. And here you have a whole bunch of Ray figures. And hey, why not? Let's bring in the Scoleri brothers, just so you can see that. If you do have a lot of those Matty collectors, then hey, why not? Let's bring in the library ghost. If you do have the Matty collector ones, if you have those other ghosts, you can still keep them with this. I mean, as you can see, the scale works pretty decently. He's a little bit shorter than the other figures, but not by much. And when you line him up with some of these ghosts, well, this Ray does not like standing at all. The ghosts actually scale pretty well with them. So even if you're replacing your various Ghostbusters in your display with the new Ghostbusters, at least until we get any kind of idea from Hasbro on if we're going to be getting more ghosts, you can use the ones from Matty Collector. Because like I said, we got the Scoleri brothers, we got the library ghost. It works pretty good. I still don't like the color of this one. That one always kind of bothered me. I like the aqua color of this guy compared to this guy, and I don't remember the name. So, and then, of course, you know, now for his articulation, it is exactly the same as Peter's. Nothing really changes. You got a ball joint here at the head. You have a butterfly joint. I don't know if I mentioned that in the Peter video, but he does have a little bit of a butterfly joint. You got a hinge. You got a swivel. You have a swivel at the upper bicep. You got two bends at the elbow itself. You have a wrist rotation. You also have a hinge forward and back. Both of them are trigger fingers, so that works really nicely, although I don't feel like you really need a trigger finger so much with this one because that's going to be holding onto the lower section of the Neutrino one, but whatever. Ball joint right down here, but again, when you move it around, that is going to separate that. So that's the biggest downfall I feel with this one. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something worth noting. You do have the pin hinge joint, or no, is that a ball joint? That might be a ball joint. At the hips, rotation at the thigh, you got two bends at the knee, and then of course the ankles have that weird ankle rocker, and then you can move them forward and back. So great figure, really is. Ray's definitely a fun character, one of my favorites out of the four of them. He's probably number 2, to be totally honest with you. If you know who number 1 is, then you are somebody who actually pays attention when I talk about Ghostbusters. So I definitely recommend these guys. Hasbro is doing an amazing job with this new series. I am very hopeful that they continue it, give us a lot of other characters, a lot of ghosts. That was one thing that really doomed the Matty Collector line. Their ghosts sucked, and basically they just kept giving us repainted things like this. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but give us other stuff as well. This guy turned out great. The portrait I don't feel is as strong as Peter's, but it's still recognizable to me as Dan Aykroyd in this role. And of course, you get to build your very own Vince Clortho as a terror dog. So absolutely, I would recommend picking this guy up as well as pretty much all the other ones. Spoiler alert. But for these guys, they are going to be available at mass retail. So Targets, Walmarts, all of those regular main outlets should be carrying these guys. Or they will be available online at places such as Big Bad Toy Store. So for that, I'll put a link right down in the video description where you'll go to BBTS and you can check out availability on this guy as well as the rest of the wide range of Ghostbuster figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would do one very small thing for me. And that's simply just to hit that thumbs up button. I know it sounds annoying, me always asking you to do it. But really, that one very small gesture really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really, really appreciate it. Also, I want to send a huge shout out to all of my patrons, who through their continued support, now more than ever, help to make reviews like this possible. And finally, remember, the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.